The use of an X in Citroen's cars' names is not a new thing. There's already the combustion C5X, and although that can sometimes make our thoughts jump to SUVs and crossovers, Citroen has a different definition. The X stands for cross design. So it's essentially the cross between a fastback saloon, a hatchback and an SUV. Think of it as a cockapoo of the car world. What is for sure is when I first got to see the e-C4X in the flesh last year, many of you were as pleased as I was to see something that wasn't an SUV, a return of a saloon. But is that where the positives end? Hopefully all will be clear by the end of this video, so stay tuned. And if you do like electric car news and electric mobility, then you're in the right place. Hit the subscribe button and follow along to Electroheads. Citroen may still be willing to be quirky in some of their elements, but what happened to the colours? The old Citroen C4 Cactus used to come in yellow, it used to come in blue. Now, it's just a bit of an array of kind of grey and silver and white. It's all a little bit boring. That's a bit more like it. I really like this car finished in red. I think it looks fantastic, contrasting with the chrome and also the gloss black and the matte black that you have at the bottom of the diffuser. It also looks good with the alloy wheels as well. It just brings in a bit more colour. It makes it look a bit more interesting. But surprisingly, when I visited the plant over in Madrid, they wasn't building very many red cars. I think that's because most people like to go for the safe option, which is a shame because this looks really cool. The front end is very much unchanged from the e-C4 hatchback inspired SUV, which we featured a lot on the Electroheads channel. So if you want to see a full review of that car, then I'll pop it somewhere up here. But the car has been changed from the B pillar backwards. So they've changed it from that hatchback to a saloon and they've extended the boot. The boot is actually massive. And guys, I've got a bit of an apology because when I had a first look at this vehicle in Copenhagen, in a showroom kind of battling with hundreds of people to look at this vehicle, I muddled up my words and I said that it was now more practical. Of course, now being a saloon opening boot over a hatchback boot is not more practical, but I'll show you that in a moment and you guys can kind of decide whether it still has some practicality because there is tons of space back there. But in terms of length, so it's actually now 4.6 metres long. It's 240 millimetres longer than the Citroen e-C4 and it's 200 millimetres shorter than the combustion C5X. In terms of design, I quite like it. There's definitely a particular target audience for this vehicle, but I really like that Citroen have stuck with what they're very good at doing, and that's creating just big wafty saloon cars, and we haven't seen one for a while. So this kind of sits in a segment on its own, and I quite like that. Around the back is where I'm not too keen on the styling. To me personally, it just feels a little bit unfinished. I definitely prefer the styling of the e-C4. However, it's probably just the case that I'm not used to saloon cars, because if you compare this to the European saloon cars that we don't get in the UK, this looks very similar to that, so it's going to be familiar to a lot of people. It's just not familiar to us. We're so used to SUVs. Now let's talk about that boot. Once more, I'm going to apologise again. Yes, it's not more practical, and there's a few reasons why. First of all, you do have the boot which impedes on your loading area, so when you're putting items in, it's a little bit more tricky. Of course, you've also got this part here that you've got to navigate around, and somebody did point out in my first look video, it's not dog friendly, which is a real shame, because do you know what? It's massive. There's 510 litres inside this boot. And that's actually bigger than the MG5 estate. It's just a shame that it's not actually practical to load items in. But I definitely think that if you're going to the airport and you need to pack your suitcases in it, it's still going to be practical. Just some items you might find a little bit tricky.
Prices are rumoured to run almost parallel with the existing SUV e-C4, which is a pleasant surprise, and can see models starting from around £32,000. From launch, it's available in 3 trim levels: Sense, Shine and Shine Plus. Sense models come with standard 18-inch alloy wheels, keyless entry and start, as well as being equipped with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. All Sense models also feature active safety brake, speed limit information, lane keeping assistant, forward collision warning and driver attention alert. Building on the standard equipment, Shine models gain Citroen's next generation infotainment and navigation system SIN here, and they also benefit from head-up display, automatic intelligent headlights, as well as a heated steering wheel for added convenience and comfort. Safety is improved thanks to an advanced active safety brake and nighttime and cyclist detection. Range-topping Shine Plus versions add Alcantara seats, which are heated for the driver and front passenger, and come as standard with highway driver assist, which includes adaptive cruise control. Based on these options, the entry car sounds more than equipped for most drivers.
If you're looking for a comfortable electric car, doesn't get much better than this. Citroen has always had a really big focus on comfort, and they haven't lost that in this new model. These seats are wonderful. They're like armchairs, and they now have even more cushioning than ever before. They're also finished in this leather detail in this model, and I also really like the Alcantara seats that are available for this car. You can't exactly recline them though, and that is a bit of a complaint of mine, because things like the Kia EV6 will actually recline all the way back so that you can take a nap whilst you're charging. But this car doesn't do that, and I think that's a real miss point for Citroen. The quality is fabulous. You've got a nice soft leather wrapped steering wheel. You've got a few mix of plastics in the cabin, but none of them are particularly offensive. Even this centre console, it's got some soft touch materials on the outside. And then even the plastic on the inside, it doesn't feel cheap, it's not scratchy. You've got some gloss black and also a mix of the chrome that brings the exterior details into the interior. It's all just very cohesive. And I love how practical it is as well. Everything's exactly where you'd find it. You've got the cruise control on your steering wheel, you've got most dials for your air conditioning and your climate control, a start-stop button, you've also got a home button on your big screen, and you've also got a physical volume button. Now this screen, that's one of the things that is different from the C4. The C4 got a smaller touchscreen, whereas on the C4X, it's got the larger touchscreen out of the brand's more expensive and larger C5X. There's quite a bit of storage. You've got a nice cubby hole down the front with some storage underneath this little compartment which separates it, somewhere to pop your mobile phone, which is wireless charging on some of the higher spec models. However, you've got a little bit of storage in this armrest. It really could be more, especially considering with electric cars, you don't have a transmission tunnel. So there should be somewhere that you can place storage underneath this tunnel. But because this car is set up to also be a petrol and diesel in other markets, it means that you still get this tunnel, and that's a bit of a shame. There is a little slidey which gives you some cup holders in there, which is nice. But yeah, I feel like they could have taken it even further if this was a dedicated electric car and not just built on a combustion platform. The only real changes in the back of the cabin is the seats are more reclined, so they give you a more relaxed feel, but actually legroom remains the same, but it's not too bad, and the headroom is okay. But where this panoramic sunroof sits, there is quite a jut out, so if you're tall, that is going to impede on your headroom. And once again, because this is based off a combustion car, unfortunately, it's got a bit of a transmission tunnel as well, which is a shame for an electric car. In the back here, I've got a USB and USB-C charge port. Really like that because it gives you the best of both worlds. And another little thing that I love about Citroen products is the ISOFIX fitments are behind little zips. So if you have child seats, fantastic. If you don't have to worry about it getting mucky in there. You've also got a pull-out armrest, which has got 2 cup holders, somewhere to pop your mobile phone, and you've also got a little bit of through loading as well, but it really is tiny. The e-C4X, unsurprisingly, drives just like the e-C4 hatch, although interestingly, it has a more aerodynamic shape, equaling a 0.29 co-drag efficiency rating, and this gives it 224 miles of driving figure, which is 5 miles further than the hatchback. It uses the same powertrain technology and it's on the CMP platform, which is shared by other Stellantis Group products like the Peugeot E2008. Therefore, it has a 50 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which is still being released in the latest models like the Vauxhall Astra E and even the Jeep Avenger. Although, the brand seems to have been able to squeeze closer to 250 miles for those models, making this e-C4X a little behind in technology. Power comes from a 132 brake horsepower motor which drives the front wheels. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes a modest 9.6 seconds. But Citroen's focus has always been on comfort rather than power. Like almost all EVs, the car can recover energy when decelerating or braking, and there are 3 driving modes, Eco, Normal and Sport, that can vary in the level of engine power and energy draw from the air conditioning to boost your driving range. The e-C4X has a brake feature, which will amplify the deceleration of the car without pressing the brake pedal. Like other C4s, this model gets the very clever progressive hydraulic suspension setup. Essentially, the car's springs and shock absorbers work to slow the body movement over bumps and imperfections on the road. If you want a car which has power and performance, then this probably isn't going to be your pick of the bunch. But if you want a comfortable family car, which is going to give you that serenity on long drives, then actually I think this is a really good option. That suspension is super comfortable, it's nice and quiet in here, there's not much road noise, and it all just makes a very peaceful ride. My only concern about the e-C4X is it doesn't really feel like a new generation of car. It is extremely similar to the e-C4 and it only gets those 5 more miles. Yes, it is a heavier vehicle, so it's difficult to get many more miles out of it without increasing the battery size. But why haven't they increased the battery size? I'm not sure, it just doesn't feel like a step forward, it feels like a sideward step. It's offering something different to the e-C4 in the fact that you get a bigger boot and it's got a slightly different design. But in terms of actually being a new generation of electric Citroen, I don't think you can really see it as that. A little like the warm efforts of the driving range, charging is just okay. Like the e-C4 hatch, this X model has an onboard 11 kilowatt charger, which can top up from empty in around 7.5 hours using a 7 kilowatt home wall box. However, if you want to upgrade your home setup, that could fall to just 5 hours. Fast charging is capable of speeds up to 100 kilowatts, achieving 80% charging in around half an hour, if you can find a quick enough charger. This is okay, but models like the VW ID4 or the Kia EV6 can accept considerably more. So if you're relying on rapid charging only, this may not be the model for you. The e-C4X is a little bit of a funny one. I can't quite put my finger on who's going to purchase this vehicle. However, being very similarly priced to the e-C4, I can imagine that if people wanted the e-C4 but they wanted just a bit more reclined back, they needed more boot space, then it definitely offers a really good alternative. Plus you get those nice extras of the larger infotainment screen and just a slightly more plush interior. It does tick a lot of boxes, but we're just really not used to cars like this in the UK. But please guys, let me know. Do you like the return of the saloons, or are you an SUV fan? Pop it in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you wanted to see more reviews like this on the Electroheads channel, then you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. Until next time, see you later.